and welcome to this week's episode of Across the Park podcast. Back on location, Pricey. We've got a bit of a ritual. We're touring the city, drinking beers. I think we may as well turn into a Guinness guru or a Corona guru. We're in North Liverpool. We can't get much north without touching the cyclone. We're up in Crosby and the Rock Salt Bar. Amazing little place. That has had a little upstairs room to record, so really grateful to Rock Salt in Crosby. Get down here, they've just said there, £3 pizzas and £3 pints on a Monday. I come down here even though we're not recording.
Sounds.
Top deal, get down. Rock Salt in Crosby, thank you so much for allowing Across the Park podcast to record here. Myself, Ian Mills and Andrew Price. Before we get into what's probably going to be a bit of a negative show, Pricey, we've got lots of social media where we've always said Evertonians, when it hits different, when Evertonians react, and our podcast is no different, but before we get into there, big thank you as always to our sponsors, Their Clothing, VIR Clothing. See, Pricey's rocking a nice t-shirt there. So I'm a bit cold. I'm not as much as a man as Pricey, so I've got a Primark t-shirt over mine. But VIR Clothing, all the great menswear is out now for Christmas. T-shirts, jeans, chinos, polos, jackets, very, very smart. Loads of lads in our work who are half my age of rocking it, which is always a good sign. So VIRclothing.com. ATP20 at checkout, 20% off on the Boys at Across the Park podcast. We are a member of Alfie's squad. Pricey, Alfie got the Young Sports Personality of the Year. Echo Awards, yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Brilliant.
Yeah, that's good, yeah. Well deserved as well. He's just a cracking lad, isn't he?
Yeah.
A nice lad.
Over on our socials, we retweeted that. So if you want to go over to Across the Park PC and then follow at Alfie's squad, they're a few K under, they're 25k goal. So please do anything you can. They've actually got a Pricey, not sure whether you've seen this, they've got a little raffle going as well for a tenner. You can possibly win 2 corporate tickets, all your ale, all your foods, Man City on New Year's Eve.
Yeah, I did see that actually, yeah.
So for a tenner,
yeah.
We might go in, but if we win, we might have to put it back in.
Couple of goals though, innit? Tenner each, couple of goals there.
Why not? I mean, if you win that, what a Christmas present as well. Or maybe not a good Christmas present, who knows? And finally, Globe Gas and Heating, globecentralheating.com. I'm trying to look at my phone, I'm meant to be a natural. Great local businessman who's doing all of the plumbing, he's doing engineering, he's doing installations as well. At this time of year and the cost of living as well, you need that on point. So we know him, he's a great lad. Get over to globecentralheating.com, repairs and installations. And if you do want a kitchen or a bathroom quote, just quote Across the Park podcast for 10% off the quote. And over on our social media at Across the Park PC on Twitter and Instagram as well, you can find Globe Gas as well. If you're not like me, not too internet savvy, go over to socials and get on them there. I spoke last week, Pricey, about a big double header. We had a bit of a debate over was one more important to win. We went on Everton's and we got done on aggregate 7-1 by Bournemouth. Without maybe going over the cup game, because a lot of times passing to our last podcast, that was still disappointing for me. Do you think that had an effect on Saturday, despite them being different teams? Did it give Bournemouth as a club a bit of a, it's only Everton?
Yeah, I think it did. I think I said before the cup game that I wouldn't mind putting a couple of youngsters in and just seeing if we've got anyone who can come into the squad or come into the team and shine, and then we can use them. Yeah. What he did is he played our second string team who was shit, and we know this. There's no, I'm being deadly serious. There's players there. I'm not saying everyone who played is a bad player, but there's players who we know are not good enough who we put in. Yeah. After the game, he said something to the effect of, "They've been knocking on my door, wanting to play, so I've put them on, I've played them and showed them." If that's what he's done it for, then you can understand that. I've put them in, I've showed the chairman that we haven't got a squad. Fair enough. You still expect a bit more of a fight than that, but I do think it rolled over into Saturday. Not only from the way Bournemouth have or potentially saw Everton and thought, we've got them. Psychologically, we've got them here. But also within the squad, I heard there was a bit of unharmony after the game and the changes and stuff like that. And if that's the case, that can seep in. And maybe that was a reason for the abject performance on the Saturday. Look, I'm disappointed, as I say. He didn't. I know he brought Cannon on. He didn't play a couple of youngsters in the starting lineup and give them a go. And he stuck to players we know can't do it. That's what annoyed me about the cup game.
Well, you look at Morpay, who started the cup game, and then he started the league game. So he's the one constant. So if I'm Tom Cannon, and I'm thinking, I didn't get a chance in the cup game, but he's just stunk that gaff out. I should get a chance in the Premier League game. That's fair, isn't it?
Well, yeah, definitely. There's no reason for him not to have played in one of those games, especially as you say how bad Morpie was on the Tuesday, for him not to play on the Saturday. Why not? Why not? What have you got to lose? Or even we'll go into the game even at half time. It was crying out for me either to replace Morpie or to bring an extra striker on and bring him on alongside him. And he still didn't do that. So that's question marks for the manager. But I'm not going to get into that in a minute.
We've got socials on that. If anyone is on social media, like I said at the start, Evertonians hit different. The reaction, rightly or wrongly, whether we agree with you, disagree with each other, whatever, it's all opinion. But it does hit different. So we're going to get into the manager, rightly or wrongly. We've got opinions from social media, which we'll touch upon. Before we get to the manager himself, cover more on Saturday's game. I watched it. Started similar to how we started at Fulham, where we had lots of the ball. And then for me, the problems come from the forwards aren't very good at retaining possession. The end product, if you look deeper into the end product, they just give the ball away. And then they're giving the ball away at times where maybe a Mikalenko, maybe an Onana, maybe Patterson is then out of position, they're looking to build an attack. We're getting hit so many times. I don't know the numbers. I think it's 68 or something that Bournemouth, Leicester and Fulham shots against. And when Pickford has a bad game, or the dads at the back of a bad game, that's what happens. But for me, I'm going back to, I think it's how poor our forward players.
I think it is how poor our forward players. I think on Saturday, we may have mentioned a couple of times we need wide forwards. That goes without saying. I think nobody would disagree. We need a centre forward as well if Calvert-Lewin's going to be injured as much as he is. But on Saturday, I just felt like the attitude wasn't there. I felt like it was. I know the World Cup's coming up. It felt like an end of season performance where the players just aren't at the races and they've got half an eye on maybe being off for the week or maybe going to the World Cup if they're going to the World Cup. And it was that type of performance, which is unusual for this squad of players this season, you must admit, or I'd admit it's unusual. So then it does come down to what quality have you got and what players have you got. And yeah, you're right, going forward, we haven't got that quality. I don't know what the numbers are, but you look at the goals conceded last season, I think we were fourth worst for goals conceded. So 2 in the relegation zone, Leeds, and then us. I think we were joint with Leeds with goals conceded. We're now 5th best goals conceded. Alongside Chelsea, Liverpool, West Ham, joint with West Ham and Liverpool and Chelsea as the 5th best of conceding goals. So he sorted our defence out. I know 3 against Bournemouth is not acceptable, but that's a one-off that in terms of how the defenders performed, and even as a team how we performed defensively. So he sorted the defence out. So that's fine. Usually, but going forward, that we lack the quality. And for me, it's not just the individual players; it's the patterns of play going forward. I don't think we've got. I can't see what we're trying to do when we go forward. It all seems to be stifled. It all seems to be, we get the ball, right now what do I do? Right now what do I do? There's no individual, there's no overlaps, or I don't know.
Not playing as a team going forward maybe, or there's no sort of... At the back, I'm with you, look solid, and the first goal is a Pickford error.
Yeah.
Second goal, how that stands is like, and I know the manager said he's not going to cling on to it, so I'm not going to cling on to it. But if someone's down with a head injury, how do you not know that's a really, really serious head? And that's why the guidance is, or the rules. I don't know if guidance or rules. I'm Matt Hancock now when I'm a celeb.
I think it's
stop the game.
If the ref knows if he knows there's a head injury, that's what it says.
Yeah.
So whether he said I didn't know it was a head injury, I thought he was down. That's probably what he's going to say. I know, and it was obvious it was a head because they both went up to head it, and he was right in the middle of the goal, and that's where the goal, where the forward headed it from. So he would have been right in that position, Tarkowski, when that happened, and then to make it even worse, they went down a couple of minutes later, the Bournemouth fellow went down with an head injury, blew up straight away. Yeah. So it is disappointing, but I'm with Lampard. You can't blame that. If we're more aggressive in defence, which we weren't, we just didn't seem to be.
Well, my point for bringing that up, so sorry, I've got a little bit off track there, sound like I'm a celebrity, but Pickford's error, first goal, if Pickford doesn't push that in, we're at 0-0. If the referee then stops the game as he should, we're at 0-0. You go into half-time, 0-0. So I'm not defending the team here, but I think there was big slices of things that sort of went against us. And the third goal, they give up. They get marking no one. The third one was like, it's too late in the game here for us to come back, and we're not marking no one. And that, in turn, which I'm getting to, I think that riled the away ends up. That the away ends have been down there twice, spent a lot of money, and we've seen the scenes at the end. Sky Sports News are very quick to show the scenes. Toffee TV put a video from in the away end. Alex Iwobi's arguing, Jordan Pickford's arguing, police are there, Frank Lampard saying sorry. Frank Lampard has now seen what maybe other managers have seen, and I think the second half performance is that if Everton lose 2-1 there, you don't get that reaction. You might get a boo, but they give up.
That's my point about it being like, it felt like an end of season performance. The players didn't feel like, and I'm not supporting them because it was terrible, and the fans are completely right. If I was there, I'd be fuming, especially if I'd have gone Tuesday as well. Gone twice in a week.
A couple of £100 down there.
And time and effort, and Bournemouth's a nightmare place to get to as well. So you would be fuming. I don't mind that though. I don't mind if fans are fuming at the players. I don't even mind if the players are giving a bit back, and it's a bit like that because it shows that they care. Especially Iwobi, I think Iwobi threw his shirt and it got through back at him, which I'm all for. Look, I'm a big fan of Iwobi, or I have been this season anyway, and a large part of last season. But if he gives that performance and then tries to give his shirt away, I'm glad people have threw it back and gone, no, we're not accepting that. We're not accepting that performance.
Apparently his reaction was his friends were in there and he was worried about his friends or something. But even that doesn't read well to me.
Don't put them in the away end with all the Everton fans on the away day, do you know what I mean? So yeah, go on.
I was going to say, do you think the manager... Look, I think when you travel that length of the country, I think it's right that the players acknowledge the supporters. And the manager held his hands up, but he took accountability. He said, I sent them over. A few of them tried to walk, and I sent them over. But in hindsight, should he have maybe protected, like, it's not good for Tom Cannon, Nathan Patterson and stuff. Maybe Conor Cody confronts it, and Seamus Coleman confronts it. Alex Iwobi can't confront it because he's arguing.
Well,
Jordan Pickford can't confront it because he's arguing. Should the manager have just said, look, me and the captain will go over and we'll say sorry?
No, get them all over there and fucking apologise. Apologise. I mean, I don't know what was said. If they're apologising and they're having a go at having I'm apologising to you or whatever, then as I say, I don't mind it. I don't mind that. I don't mind if the players kill themselves in the changes and arguing and fighting. I don't care. It shows that they're bothered about the game. So I'd rather there was a bit of something. You look at the team last season, they wouldn't have argued. They would have just walked straight out the tunnel and not been asked. So I don't mind that. And but every right to the players. But I do think, and I will say, the performance was poor. And we've had poor performances this season, but the lack of effort was a one-off for me. I don't think there's players in that squad who show a lack of effort, or in that team, sorry, who show a lack of effort week in, week out. I think they do usually show effort. For some reason, they're just down to the second half.
Before we get to socials, there's a lot of great Everton content out there. I watched the Falcon Blues, I've watched Mike over at Blue Boys, I've listened to the Bullens lads, and I watched the Choppy TV. Sort of, not all, but what most are sort of saying is this could now be the beginning of the end, whether we agree with that or not. Do managers do you come back from that reaction on the way end? Can you come back from that? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I'm not on social media, so I don't watch anyone. So I don't know what's being said, but you come back from that. If he comes back in January or straight after Christmas and he loses 4 games, then the pressure might be on. But he's got a break. He regroups. He gets the team together. He buys a couple. You've got to give him a chance to buy a couple of players in January. He's had one summer with hardly any money. The defenders he's brought in have been brilliant. He brought a couple of midfielders who's been really good. Morpie and maybe McNeil have let him down, but you're not going to get everything right. And as I say, the money hasn't been there for him to maybe buy who he wants to buy. So you've got to give him in January to have a go of it. If we're at the end of February, March, and we're still got that attitude and we're down there, then maybe you look at it and go, hang on a minute. But not for now, not for me anyway. Especially when you've got, as I say, and you've got a break, you can regroup, come back in January. We might.
We'll get to that. Some questions we'll get to. And the only reason I asked
what do you think?
Well, it's a very good job that we're not recording an instant match reaction because I was boiling.
So was I.
So now I've tried, and I've said to myself, I don't want to round myself up on this. We'll get to, and that's why I said whether we believe it or not, what we believe. I think that the game on Saturday felt like the Norwich game in January, where the away end was just like on fire, angry.
The Bournemouth last season as well, wasn't it? Was it Norwich? Was it?
Ran on the pitch trying to get Rafa.
Oh, yeah.
And Duncan comes over and he's like, I'm not with him. And he's saying sorry. And it felt a little bit like that. And sometimes I think for whatever reason, a lot of fan groups and we tailed onto it as a fan base. We got a positive energy going. That positive energy lasted probably right up until Leicester at home last week. Our social media put a picture up of Frank Lampard with comments saying he wants to win things. The engagement on that was through the roof. Fans were saying, I want Lampard more than anything to win things. And then you see that. I just think it's a very quick turnaround, and I think it might do a little bit of damage, and it might even sway some fans to be like, is he actually doing as well as we think?
But that's the way of the world now.
It is,
That is the way of the world now, and that's social media and that's instant reactions, and everyone wants to, if it's not working, get it changed. How many I don't know how many Everton fans went to Bournemouth. It's a small stadium, 1,500 fans, and they're probably the hardcore fans, aren't they? If you're going to Bournemouth away, fair play, they've got every right to say exactly what they want to say. But even half of them, or a good majority of them, would have woke up on the Sunday or the Monday after they calmed down a bit, which rightly they'd be fuming, which we both were anyway on the Saturday. But I think even a lot of them would have woke up on the Sunday, the Monday, and gone, let's regroup a bit, let's have the calm down a little bit, and let's see how he goes. Why would you get rid of him? Why? I just don't understand it.
We'll get to that. And anyone who's been to Bournemouth is looking at us and going, "You're so lucky you didn't go." Me and him on Sunday, yesterday, met Mr. Tumble, didn't we? We with Mr. Tumble yesterday. It's not an across the park extra. It was my little girl's first birthday party. Godfather to my little girl, so we had a party. So we were seething, getting selfies with Mr. Tumble. So anyone who thinks we had it easy this weekend, we certainly...
I weren't getting a selfie with Mr. Tumble.
Well,
just him.
I got a few, yeah. I'll show you later. Right, social media, I think this is going to be the core of what we've got inundated with it. So I've took what I think will be balanced. Tommy Williams on Twitter, first of all, he said, Pricey, for him, we look incapable so often. Is it quality? Is it confidence? Or is it the way the team are being set up? For him, he's bullet pointed it by saying, it's getting really frustrating for him now. Every other team in the league looks threatening going forward, apart from us.
It is frustrating. I was saying after Leicester, it is frustrating. And for me, it's quality. And it is also the way we're playing. Because I said before, I don't want to keep repeating myself, but he's obviously worked on defensively. And not just the back four, but the back six, including the two midfielders over there, three midfielders, back seven, three midfielders, the keeper or whatever. He's obviously worked on that. That's obvious. The shape that we're in now is a lot better than last season. And maybe he's just neglected the forward passages of play that we've got. So it's quality. I think the players haven't been good enough. I'm not going to say that they're not good enough. I'm not going to say McNeil is not good enough, Gray is not good enough. They haven't been good enough though, or Gordon. They're the three or more pie or Calvert-Lewin. No, they haven't.
Keep going,
no. There's a couple who I think are not Everton players, put it that way. But there's a couple who just haven't shown that quality. They've shown glimpses of it here and there, but they need to do more. But I think they do need to be coached better in terms of the forward play. It looks like that way to me anyway. But then I can accept if he's prioritised defence and shape. I can accept that. If he comes in January, which he said he wants to buy a forward in January, if he buys one, and we show a bit more, keep going back to that individual, just something more going forward. Do you know what I mean? If we do that in January and we push on, and I think we'd be all right. But you're also looking. I'm sorry to go on. I was saying to you on Sunday about Brentford against Man City. How can Brentford go to Man City
never do that
and win 2-1, which we never do? And then how aggressive they were, and how good they were on the ball, and how good they were going forward. When as soon as they get possession, they're going forward. But we're hindered by the fact that Calvert-Lewin's been injured all the time, where they've got Tony who's fit, fighting fit. They can rely on him. They can play off him. They know exactly what they're going for, and they can work on that week in, week out. Plus, the manager's been there for years. It took him 2 years. I was looking. It took him 2 years to get his team he wanted. Lampard hasn't even been there a year yet. So, I think it's time personally.
You answered this next question. Darren O'Day on Twitter, and he's basically probably a short answer for you, Pricey. With fans starting to get frustrated with Lampard, and truth be told, in Darren's eyes, probably rightly so at the minute, based on this run, what do you make of some fans now saying he's not the right fit?
Well, I'll answer and then you answer. I think it's the way of the world, and you can understand fans doing it because manager turnover is just really quickly in the Premier League now. It just is. So if things go wrong, you automatically go the manager. But I just ask, who do you want as the manager? Who's going to come in that you want? Do you want to go through the whole thing again where the manager's got to come in, buy it, bring his own players in, bring his own style in? Or would you just rather say, look, we're not where we want to be. This season was never going to go like that. It's up and down, but there's definite progress. That's my point of view.
There may be a moment this season, if this run prolongs into post-transfer window, which I think he deserves. I think he does deserve. And now's the perfect chance with the World Cup being on, that he can maybe say, how much have we got? Should we watch some players? Can we try and make some contacts? Because I'd like these players. He deserves that. if we go 2 or 3 weeks into the window and he hasn't addressed it, or the club haven't addressed it, and we've lost 2 or 3 or 4 more games, I can see a scenario where the owner presses the button on it. Whether I agree or not.
Would you agree with that though?
I think, yes. So if he doesn't address it in January, or the club hang him out to dry for whatever reason, if we don't bring attackers in and we're losing games still, if he proves that he can't fix it, then
but isn't the issue?
You would have to. You couldn't risk going down.
So he said he wants a forward in January.
Yeah.
If the club don't back him with a forward, what's the point in getting rid of Lampard? Because the next manager will come in and needs a forward, and you can't back him for a forward.
You'd have to get someone in who can play differently, because that wouldn't be working. You'd have to say, I can play differently, not a forward. And
no one can play with Ronda and Moore.
I don't mean Allardyce, but you'd have to look to someone, because someone just firefights out of this and throw.
So till the end of the season.
Away. Yeah.
And then just start again at the end of the season again.
And it's a shit scenario, but that's where Everton sort of are.
Like a West Brom or something.
That's where we are. Are we not?
Everyone's at that if they don't stick with a manager and give him a bit of time.
Yeah, and
you've got to give them time.
I'm not saying don't give them time. I'm saying I can see it in a distance. I can see a scenario where he gets bulleted this season.
Well, history shows that it could happen, doesn't it?
Yeah. Richie on Instagram. So again, same theme. Why are people different? Actually, why are people so different? Start again. Why are people so eager to sack the manager? Look, I'm far from happy with this run, but sacking the manager continually does not help. We need a period of stability. Don't get me wrong, Frank isn't beyond criticism, but I do think with some more creativity added in the next window, we will improve, opposed to going back to square one with the new manager.
Did I just write? That's what I
You put that in?
I've not even seen that, and I thought that's what I said. Isn't
Richie,
it?
Pricing fully agrees.
It'd be interesting to know what people who watch this think. You know, because we've had from what you're reading, it's quite mixed.
We've got the alternative.
Go on.
Got the alternative. So. Over on Facebook Messenger, we logged into it today to see what was going on, and our Instagram asking for questions somehow joined onto our Facebook. So we've got Messenger. So someone called T on Facebook Messenger, he's put, look, we're painted at times as a club being trigger happy for sacking managers, but the reality for me is we actually leave it far too late to sack them, and that's what's got us in this trouble.
Who have we left late? Just out of interest, and I know you didn't write it.
So who have we sacked?
So you've sacked
Benitez, Allardyce, Silva, Koeman, Martinez.
Yeah.
Were any of those too late for you?
No.
I don't know.
Were they for you? Martinez was straight away, wasn't it, as soon as he come in? I mean, I'm going off memory. If Martinez was straight away.
Koeman was quick with Martinez.
Koeman was next, wasn't it? Koeman
was quick. That bad when he was gone.
Yeah, he's quick, yeah. So we had a good season, didn't he? Or a good half season, whatever.
Maybe Silva. Is that what
How long did Silva last? A year and a half or a year?
So
is that long?
Silva went in December. We got beat 5-2 in a derby, but we were 18th. So the whole first half of the season was bad. And then I think Benitez, I'm just guessing out loud here, Benitez, that bad run started in October, the Watford game, and he got bulleted in January with 1 minute 17. So I'm reading between the lines. Is he saying it's only 1 minute 7 now? Let's not get to 1 minute. I don't know.
I don't know. But you were saying it, and not just you. Sorry, I think I said it. A few of us said it. But should we give Silva more time? That was a shout on the podcast a couple of months ago.
Judgy's a big Marco Silva fan. He looks now and says he didn't get back. He lost Garnier. He lost Zuma.
So you can't have it both ways, can you?
Yeah. So and this is why we're having people saying get rid of people saying don't get rid of.
And it's interesting and the way people feel and the way everything's valid. No one's wrong or no one's right. But I just don't see the benefit in getting rid of a manager who, up until 4 weeks ago, was doing all right, weren't he?
Well, do you know what? The funny thing is, when we record this show in, where are we now, November, let's call it April. In 6 months' time, one of those people is going to be right. One of them are right. It's either been
unless we sack Lampard and he goes and signs for a different team and does brilliant with them.
No, yeah, I just mean like either we're okay, we're sound, we shouldn't have panicked in November. That was only 3 or 4 games, or we've lost another 5. So someone's going to be right.
Well, but I think the ultimate question is: did you really expect this season to be flying?
Oh no, of course.
Did anyone expect that?
No.
And I know Bournemouth away, I think Fulham away we should have won. You said draw was fine or whatever, but I know Bournemouth away shouldn't be getting beat 3-0. If we hadn't lost the cup game, the 3-0 would have been bad. It wouldn't have been as bad. And the cup game's not a league game, so and we're playing our second string. Do you know what I mean?
I do. And
I'm trying to put the spin on it a little bit. But
we're going to get to it because there's a question, and I don't know whether you might then agree with me a little bit or you may still disagree. There's one thing that pissed me off this season, and we're going to get to it. With the manager, we're going to get to it. We're not there yet. Again, Mike on Facebook Messenger, feeling worried again. Look, straight question. Do you think we'll be in a relegation battle come April and May? The manager has spent some money on improving us, so if so, we haven't improved.
Go on, you go first on that one.
I don't think we'll go down, but I don't think come April it'll be like we're fine. I think it'll be a sort of, I mean, like under Smith, you'd the 3 games to spare, you'd be all right. I don't think it'll go into the second to last game and it can't because our run is bad. We've got like City and Arsenal and stuff, and I think if you get Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who I'm on this podcast, long-time listeners and viewers know I've not got Nan Calvert-Lewin on the back of my top. But I think if you get him fit, there's enough goals in the team then to be okay.
Do you not think slightly off here, do you not think losing Calvert-Lewin's been massive to us this season? Not only his goals, but the way Lampard wants to play.
Yeah, I do. I think if he was fit, there'd be enough goals to be okay.
Yeah. So
I don't think there'd be enough goals to be Calvert-Lewin.
No, I don't. But that's got to come into question, come into your thinking, hasn't it? He's lost his main striker.
100%, yeah.
And we bought Maupay desperation times, wasn't it, in the summer? He needs the forward. Maupay's cheap, just bring him in.
Do you think April and May? Do you think so? You're looking at the fixtures now. Are we going to Goodison in April in a battle, or do you think we'll be okay?
No, I agree. I think we'll be between 13th and 16th. You know, that little third of the league. Not troubled. Not thinking that we're going to. I mean, touch wood and all that. But not going into relegation. The reason for that is defensively. Defensively, we're strong, and again, I go back to just bringing someone in January, just working on forward play in during December. None of our forwards are going to the World Cup, are they? So just work on that.
Of course not.
I know, and that's not. So I'm happy with that. I
was thinking of my dead ones on more paper.
Yeah, none of them are going. So let's work on that. But I think defensively they'll keep us safe. If defensively we were leaking goals, I'd be worried. A lot more worried.
Yeah, I agree. I do. I think what you said there, will be okay. The famous last words. Look, here's where I'm getting to where I don't really want to get riled up, and you might press a button here and get me there. I don't. Steve Brown on Twitter has nailed it. So whereas Mike may as well have been sitting next to you on the desk and working before, Steve Brown may as well have been sitting on my knee. We stayed up by a pubic hair, and then we signed Maupay and McNeil after losing with Charlison. It's negligence. If he gets sacked, he has no one to blame after wasting the Richarlison money like that.
Well, you know, that's one way of looking at it, is it? But you can also look at the defence he's brought in the midfield. He showed up. Has he brought in Maupay and McNeil, or has he brought in Tarkowski? Has he brought in Cody? Has he brought in Nana? Has he brought in
all of them? Yeah. But for me,
Garner, Gay. He's brought them all in, hasn't he?
It's all the worst thing about this.
They're two bad signings. So I think the McNeil one, I don't understand, because that was near the start of the window. It was like we had our eye on him and we went for him. So he obviously likes him. So I think he got that one wrong. With the Maupay one, I think he was just desperate for a striker, and he was like, "There's one there."
It's the extra football model. You don't know who's. Are they sitting like this, and are they arguing over like?
Well, apparently Lampard's got to say, hasn't he? Because he said that before.
Of course, yeah. But is he then saying no? There was going. I'm sorry, but yeah, I'm overruling you. I'm seeing we need a striker, and that's the only option. If that's the case, then I can't blame the manager. But if Lampard's looking at a tape of someone who scored 1 goal in 21, and there was quotes in the summer that how big Calvert-Lewin was going to be for us. The manager was saying he's going to be really big for me. I can't wait to get him fit. And he's such a different profile to Calvert-Lewin, who's got a bad injury record. And me and you sat down in the summer without even realising it, knowing that we're going to lose Calvert-Lewin for the large part, because that's who he is now. If the manager's looked at Maupay and said, that'll do me when that happens, then he deserves the blame for that. McNeil's
a weird one, isn't he? Because
I don't get it. You just look at these players, just go back and look at their stats at different clubs. And not only over like one season, look at them since they've started. They played their first professional game of football. They do not deliver goals or assists.
No, but sometimes a manager might look at him and go, I can see enough in there that I'll improve him. Or my coaching staff, we can improve him. He's got the basics, or he's got what we need. And I just need to work on him a little bit. So I think that's maybe what he done with Neil. I do think the Maupay one, whether it was Thelwell, whether it was Lampard, whether it was one of Mashiri's mates, he's gone. We need a striker. We've got fuck all in the budget. We can either go for Diaz, was quoted at Blackburn, and now we're all saying it, but people are looking at
it.
Yeah, exactly. People look at Diaz, go, he's just scored again. Why didn't we get him? That's not in the Premier League, and he could have been even worse.
Yeah.
More players are weird one because as soon as he signed, first thing I said was every time I've watched him, he's been crap. And it was the first thing I said. I said to and Judge, he's like, no, he's a bit of a poacher. He's not.
No.
So that is a weird one for me, but I think it was needs must.
What you said there, and again, it goes back to the question that if they're his signings, and the axe falls, then it's on him. You've just said there, I'm picking back up on it, interesting, you said, he may have looked at those players and I can get more out of them. I mean, he can't. That's on him. That's on the manager or the coaching staff, whether it be Neil Clements or Ashley Cole or whoever.
Yeah, but he would have done the same.
Work with Dwight McNeil.
Yeah, but this time last year, if Lampard would have said, I can work on a Wobie, what would you have said?
No, we can't.
Well, there you go then. So yeah, he's got 2 wrong out of, 5 or 6 signings. He's not going to get everyone right.
I know, but we've started the podcast by sort of agreeing that the attacking players just put us where we are.
Yeah, it is.
And signed these 2 players who are offering nothing.
Yeah, and that's the reason, is he's got his attacking forwards wrong, his attacking signings wrong, hasn't he? He's got to hold his hands up to that, whether it's him or Thelwell, we've got them wrong. Let's redress it in January and see where we go from there.
Okay. And as always, it's not going to be an Everton loss, Placey, without the men at the top being called out. I think you I remember you said on the podcast this year, and I completely agree with what you said. You said you can't keep, if there's going to be protests, it can't be over the old things. Something else must happen. Stop going over the old things. But we've got some comments which I want to put on you. Toffee for Life on Twitter. Bill Kenwright's entire spell at Everton Football Club has seen the only success be a cup final and a last 16 tie in Europe. That's 24 years. What is his legacy, boys? This is officially the most unsuccessful period in our entire history. So Kenwright being called out, he's asking us what's Kenwright's legacy.
It's not a very good one. Let's be honest. I'm not like completely anti-Kenwright, really.
In the middle.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't love him. I'm not.
Oh, yeah, see faults and see like
let's try and see it for what it's worth.
Yeah.
He hasn't been the chairman since, or he has been the chairman. He hasn't been the decision maker for a few years, has he? We were close under Moyes. He brought in Moyes and he reigned over all that. If you look at the history, it is the worst time ever. You can't say anything against that, can you? It is.
But do you think it's easy, again, rightly or wrongly, for people to go, what's the one constant? And if you look at Bill Kenwright in the front row,
a little bit, yeah, because he's not making every decision, isn't he? It's not all under him. It's not, is it?
I think he's probably got a little bit more power since Mashiri's step back. I think it's evident now Mashiri's step back from that Keir Jabrachin thing and the El Ghazi stuff in January was almost the end of his decision making. And since then, he's tried to sell the club twice. We still haven't got a financial back of Bramley Moore. He's obviously, anyone with eyes and ears can see he's disengaged. And I think Kenwright's making more decisions now. I'm not the biggest Bill Kenwright fan, but I don't think losing to Bournemouth 3-0 is going to make me get the reunion back together. You know what I mean?
No, and it's no.
But I get the frustration.
It's not achieving anything, though, is it? It's not achieving anything to do that at this stage.
No.
I think them type of arguments are not that wait for the summer. I don't mean that, but sort of do mean that. Do you know what I mean? It's not about the playing team in bloody October or November, is it? It's about the financial decisions in January and December, in July, that makes you question maybe the top. But if Kenwright has come in, Lampard's coming with him, no one argues about that. Everyone's happy Lampard came in.
Yeah, the Lampard one coming in.
Everyone's happy that the sort of structure changed a bit.
That Pereira out Lampard in, graffiti and stuff, and Pereira was like apparently waiting to dot the I's. I think.
Yeah, I do, but...
And again, this whole, like, let's be honest, we're neither for or against the 27. If we had them on the podcast once and we remain, we don't want to go either way, but what I will say for them is I think the voice was heard in January. I think. Yeah. People in the club were like, "Oh God, this is going to get."
I think
you can't appoint Pereira.
No. Benitez, though, isn't it? Like, Mashiri didn't listen to anyone when he appointed Benitez, did he? So maybe, and apparently Kenwright was against that. So maybe Kenwright had more of a say, which has been aligned with the Evertonians. I'm not saying, Kenwright's amazing or anything, but I don't think he's to blame for anything.
No, I don't think you can blame Kenwright now. But what I do think people are doing is they're getting frustrated by how long this. Like, these fans who are going to these away games, they've probably done this at Brentford and Norwich last season. They've done it over the years under maybe Martinez and Silva. And I think the fans who are voicing the displeasure at Kenwright have not liked Kenwright for a long time. And the first thing that comes to is like, and again, rightly or wrongly, no one's right or wrong. I think in some people's minds, the club deserve a lot better. And they look at Kenwright and they go like, this is still bad. You're still here. Like, why don't you walk and it gets better? Because you look over the garden fence, you want to drive your next door neighbour's car, it looks good, doesn't it?
Yeah, you can understand it.
And the only other one, the last question, I've tried to make loads of social media because we haven't got a game to preview, is Tony Keith on Twitter. And I think this is the perfect way to sum this up. He's put, I don't care who's to blame for this run. It can be the manager or it can be the board. Whoever it is, just need to look over at Newcastle, who've recruited well and clever in the last 2 transfer windows and are now sitting in the Champions League places.
Yeah, Newcastle have done a good job. You can't deny it.
We've never done a good job, have we? Like,
but us not doing a good job would have been on their minds when they've done what they've done.
Oh, the model, yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, this is not what we do. But you know, they spent a lot of money, but not like way above anyone else who were going for success, if that makes sense. And they boxed clever, haven't they? But I was talking to that Bournemouth fan last week, Kirk, and then when we stopped filming, he just made the point that look, Eddie Howe, he's not the type of manager who'll just spend money. He's a bit like a Moyes type he'll weigh it up and have a look and have a good think. And he'll have said to the Newcastle board, if I'm joining, if I'm getting appointed, it's not going to be overnight. Don't expect it to be overnight. I think they're doing better than what they even thought they would do this season because their squad is not a top 4 squad, in my opinion. But yeah, I mean we haven't done that. Hindsight's boss, isn't it? We were all buzzing when we bought all them players in 2018 or whatever it was. We were all buzzing.
Did you want Eddie Howe in January? I never.
I did say I would take Eddie
Howe.
Did you?
Yeah. Fair enough. Right.
Me and Gary Shields, Gaza, if you're watching, me and Gaza both said we'd take Eddie Howe. But then I said last summer I'd take Sean Dyche, so don't get everything right, do you?
I think with me, my opinion is I didn't want Eddie Howe. I see the manager who had Bournemouth, bottom half, fighting relegation, spending some money on the likes of Solanke, spending money and never really improving, eventually going down. But he's doing a great job up there.
Yeah, but you got to. It's all relative, isn't it? It's all relative to what he's got. Bournemouth to get Bournemouth in the Premier League and to keep them up for 2 seasons or 3 seasons.
I didn't see it that way.
That's their achievement, isn't it?
I had whatever. I had that. Like we're better than that, and probably not. No, and maybe if you look back, and again, I'm nowhere near at the moment ditching or going for our current manager. I think I like Lampard, and if there's any manager that I want to be able to hold an FA Cup tie in Queen's Island, so I'd love it to be Frank Lampard because of what he'd done last season. The fan base was really, really fractured. There was fans walking out of games on 27 minutes. There was fans saying, I'm not going to the next game until that manager's gone. And he came in and, okay, he's not Guardiola, but I was generally fearing the worst, and it was him who sort of made sure it didn't happen, and he wants to connect.
Yeah.
So I'm not against him. I just think when you look side by side of things, you go, and that took me Everton hat off. Maybe was Eddie Howe a good choice?
Yeah. But even as a fan base, even though we brought us all together last season, and I think the fans done that. He done it as well, but it was the fan group that got us together as well. We're still a delicate fan base when you look at it. It's so something like the Bournemouth, twice in a week getting beat 7-1 in aggregate by Bournemouth. That's bound to rattle the Everton fans because we're delicate. We want the best, but we're not strong. We're not like we're strong. You know what I mean? We're
like a battered dog goes to a new home. When the owner stands up, he still flinches. Still wait, am I going to get battered?
Yeah, we're just scared.
People don't love you. You're going to hurt me.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. So we're scared. We're a bit scared, aren't we? Yeah. So if we see something happen, we go, shit, we don't want to be back there again. Do we need to sack the manager?
Yeah.
I just think a bit of I don't know, just for me, it's a bit of time and see what happens.
It's a good job, we didn't record this on Saturday.
I was feeling Saturday.
But I thought you had to poke some buttons tonight. I really did. I thought you to pull me, but you've dealt with me delicately. I appreciate it because I'm still probably, look, I'm glad that there's no Everton for 6 weeks. And what I will say is, despite what me, you, or anybody thinks, I strongly think the manager needs this break.
You need the break from the getting out the limelight, but he also needs the break to be able to work on the team and the squad. I said what these players need now is a week off and then a good piss up together. Get everything out in the open. Anyone got any problems with each other? Slag each other off after a few pints, and then the next day we forget about it and we're a team again. That's what they need. It feels like that's what they need. Hopefully they get it.
We're going to Australia next week. I think they're playing Perth and Celtic. We might do little bits and bobs on maybe a StreamYard or something, but we're probably looking at our next proper show to be previewing the Wolves game on Boxing Day. And I think that probably lands around Monday the 17th or 18th to be out Tuesday the following day. Appreciate there's a gap between now and then. We're still talking about what we're going to do. We might pop back down here if something breaks. I'm not really up for recording for the sake of recording. If Serbia beats Ecuador, I don't think we're going to come down and talk about that.
We're not an England podcast, so we're not going to be talking about how Jordan Pickford's performed.
But if something happens or there's news, we're very, very likely to jump on a StreamYard. We've got a couple of podcast lines up with some guests, which is trying to make happen as well, which is going to try and release over the Christmas period. But if you don't catch us before then, if for whatever reason you miss the Wolves preview show and you don't catch us again until after Christmas, we do wish you all the best. We hope you have a very, very happy Christmas. Enjoy the World Cup. Basically, is the part of you that maybe are going to enjoy the World Cup, feet up, no Everton?
Yeah.
Just watch football.
Yeah. I'm not excited for the World Cup, but if England gets to the quarterfinals, I'd take an interest. I enjoy it. 4-1 then.
3 Lions on.
Yeah. I love all that when it gets to that point.
All day. But thanks for watching. Thanks as always to our sponsors, Their Clothing. Thanks for Alfie Squad for being our friends. Thanks to Globe Glass Central Heating. And if you're watching on YouTube and you're not on the podcast, there's a few buttons down there that we'd really appreciate you to hit. One's like, one is subscribe, and one is share. The share throw in every Everton WhatsApp group that you are in. As you can see, we're on location, but we're moving away from the StreamYard. We're turning into full raging beer critics here. But we're doing it on the basis that we're getting good feedback, and we're trying to do some more. But in order for YouTube to allow us to do more, we really do need you to subscribe and like. So if you can do that, really, really helpful. In the meantime, please keep in touch over on our social media. We tweet back, we message back at Across the Park PC. On Instagram as well, at Across the Park PC. But from myself, Ian Mills, from Andrew Price, it's been a bad week. But as always, up the toffees.